As of Wednesday, June the 24th, COVID-19 cases exceeded 9 million worldwide, making the production of a vaccine more pressing than ever. Researchers around the world are developing some 140 vaccines, and about a dozen are in clinical trial phase. And things are developing fast. On Tuesday, China and the United Arab Emirates, for instance, kicked off a phase 3 clinical trial of a vaccine developed by China, a first in the world. And on Wednesday, another vaccine developed by China entered clinical trial. And the race is on in other parts of the world. So how far off are we from a safe and effective vaccine? And how much are researchers and politicians working together in the endeavor? Joining me from D.C. are Dr. Eric Ding, epidemiologist and health economist at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health, and via Skype from South Carolina, Katsupa Konugo, lecturer in biological sciences at Clemson University. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. Now, first, a little bit of background. For instance, as I said, China's pharmaceutical firm, the China National Biotech Group, CNBG, on Tuesday launched phase 3 trial of an inactivated vaccine for COVID-19 in the United Arab Emirates. The vaccine is expected to enter the market by the end of this year or early next year. And China's Minister of Science and Technology has said, again, that China will strengthen international cooperation in this regard. So, Eric, is China the only country cooperating with other countries on vaccine? Give us a broad picture of what's happening on this front at this moment.
Yeah, there's many vaccines that's being developed. China is developing several inactivated vaccines. The U.S. and the U.K. And the U.S.'s Warp Speed is also pursuing 5 other vaccines. So there's many different countries cooperating together. And the other key thing is China is actually doing the trial in UAE, United Arab Emirates, because UAE actually has a sufficient number of cases, unfortunately, in which to test the vaccine. You can't test a vaccine in an area with almost no cases. And so UAE is a good fertile ground for that. And so this is why, to conquer this epidemic, you need international cooperation. And in the pipeline, we're talking about more than a dozen. I think we have potentially over 24 vaccines in different phases of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So I think we will have many chances to find the most successful vaccine that the world will need by next year in billions of doses.
I want to clear some misunderstandings, if I can. For instance, there have been talks or theories by some politicians saying China stole technology for developing its vaccine. Eric, what is your understanding of the situation? Does China need to steal these kind of technology? Is someone stealing someone else's technology in order to develop vaccine, just to get it out of our way?
Yeah, like the live inactivated vaccine technology is actually an older technology. It's actually the old classic, the inactivated vaccine. There's live attenuated, there's inactivated, and these are all the traditional. If anything, the more advanced ones are the ones done by the Oxford group with a different vehicle. So I don't think this is pretty standard vaccine. This vaccine for this coronavirus is not that much different than developing other previous viruses. Every virus is a little different, but the general technology of the inactivator is actually the old classic technology for vaccine development.
Yeah. Well, let me go to Mr. Konugo here, and welcome to our show for the very first time. What can you tell us about the picture of international cooperation and possible competition that is happening at the same time in the race for COVID-19 vaccine?
Sure, yeah. First, thanks for having me. The issue is that there are many different types of vaccines are being developed by all these different countries and all of them do have different approaches. And there is quite a bit of international cooperation going on in there. The vaccine is being developed in one of the countries and it is being tested or cleared through the clinical trials in other countries as well. And there is sometimes a little bit of political health ministry approval, and those things are needed. But say, for an example, for the AstraZeneca and the Oxford group, they have already signed the documents, and they are starting in South Africa as well as in Brazil. This is going on. On the other hand, that one of the important phase 2-3 clinical trial, which is not people are talking that much, but University of Melbourne, along with the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, Radboud University Medical Center, this is in Melbourne in Australia, and they are collaborating with Dennis Faustman at the Massachusetts General Hospital here in the United States, and they are in phase 2-3 clinical trials. So there's lots of things going on, and all these different companies are trying different methods. And as Eric said, that this live attenuated vaccine is basically the virus, which is over the period of time is a live virus, but it has been made into a virus which doesn't have the ability to cause a disease, but enough to raise antibodies to protect those. So those are in there. And along with the inactivated vaccines, these are the classics. Now, the issue is that there are lots of these vector-based vaccines, like an adenovirus is a common cold virus. And on top of that, you have added the
Mr. Kanungo, I want to go into the detail in my next question, but here I want to really pick up on what you just said about different companies doing different things in different countries, basically. As I know, Americans, Chinese, and British, for instance, researchers are all racing against time to be the first to develop a vaccine. China partnered up with UAE, Oxford, or the UK researchers partnered up with Brazil and South Africa, according to you.
That's right.
Who's leading? Who's leading? How does the race look like, and what's at stake? That's my big question.
Yeah, the thing is that this is also another very interesting observation, and you know that the classic vaccine that is being developed, which is an inactivated vaccine, and the attenuated vaccine, these are the classic ones which have been long tested. They are in the market. Now, this modern scientific in the Massachusetts, they are using this mRNA approach, and then the Oxford group is using, as well as in China, which is they are using the Sinopharm, and along with the Wuhan Institute of Biological Products, they are using this adenovirus-based vaccine. These are kind of new technologies in the sense that there is nothing in the market for humans that has been approved. There are adenovirus-based, there are almost 11 vaccines available for veterinary use, but although this technology is there from late 90s, there is none for the humans in the market. And that raises a question that, will this be the first time that the Food and the Drug Administration and the health ministries will approve these vaccines for the first time in the human use?
Okay.
And it would be interesting.
Yeah. Eric, what is your take? In the race against time and in the race against each other, are people moving potentially too fast?
Well, the thing is
that...
I
think in the race against time is...
Sorry for Eric.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the race against time, everyone is racing against time. But I think in the end, they want the vaccine so that their country will be able to have the first rights at the vaccine, which is in certain ways selfish, because this epidemic is it's a pandemic that every country will eventually suffer together if we do not control it in every other country. And so I think there is this kind of selfishness where the U.S. Warp Speed initiative will guarantee the partnership with the UK will guarantee vaccines for the US and the UK first. I think that's the wrong approach, and I think pharma companies should also waive all patent rights and guarantee that this vaccine will be free for everyone in the world. And that will be remembered much longer than their profit margins in the long run. So that's why I really encourage pharma companies, please waive your patent rights. This is something that humanity needs to solve together.
Well, Chinese president made the pledge, right, during the latest World Health Assembly that when a vaccine is developed by China and when it is ready to be used, China would make it a global public good. I have to say I haven't heard other similar pledges by other countries or other pharmaceutical companies in terms of this. So how if, let's say, China manages to be the first to roll out a vaccine, then it looks like those in less developed countries would have some kind of affordable access to vaccines. But what if it is, you know, a UK company or an American company? What kind of assurance are we going to get that people in less developed countries will also have access and will not be deterred away because of the high costs associated with developing and getting such a vaccine? Eric?
Yeah, so the WHO has also created its own vaccine consortium, and those who participate in WHO's vaccine consortium pledge to give up certain patent rights and profits, and which is very, very assuring. That said, not all companies, especially U.S. pharma companies, they've actually avoided joining the WHO consortium for this reason, because they do not like giving up their patent rights. And I think that is very unfortunate. We should all come together, either as a public good, free for all, or at least join the WHO consortium to give up these patent rights to make sure that no person will not be able to get this vaccine.
Yeah, well, the World Health Organization chief scientist said Thursday the agency hopes there will be about 2 billion doses of a vaccine against COVID-19 by the end of next year that would be reserved for priority populations. Mr. Kanungo, very briefly, what would require for that? What would happen if that is the case, and how much do countries need to work together? Are you seeing the kind of spirit of cooperation at this moment?
I do believe that if the patent rights are actually removed, many of the developing countries like in India do have the capability of manufacturing the vaccines in that large amount. And it will all depend upon this cooperation of the international cooperation. And sometimes what can happen that if a pharmaceutical company keeps its patent rights and doesn't license it to the other, they have to manufacture their vaccines by themselves. And that may not reach the higher population, whereas the companies who are ready to, who join the WHO consortium, as well as they're willing to give up their patent rights, will do a great thing for the humankind, first of all. And if they license their product to be produced in different parts of the world, in different countries, it will reach the mass much faster. So these are some of the approaches, but I think that once the virus is developed, there will be parallel multiple vaccines, if approved, going into the market.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks to my guests, Eric Ding, epidemiologist from Harvard Chan School of Public Health, and Kaustuba Kanungo, lecturer of biological sciences in Clemson University.